Hello students, welcome to chapter 16. This is the last chapter for our course. It's a continuation of the this is a monopolistic competition. It's continuation from chapter 15, which talks about monopoly. So in this chapter, what we are going to learn is that what market structures lie between perfect competition and monopoly. Okay, so this is an important distinction that we need to do, and what are their characteristics. We will also see how do monopolistic competitive firms choose price and quantity. Do they earn economic profit or not? All right, so we will see that as well. And how does monopolistic competition affect society's welfare? Okay, and lastly, what are the social costs and benefits of advertising? Okay, so let's look at this. So between monopoly and competition, there are two extremes. Perfect competition have many firms and identical products, right? We all know that by now. Monopoly, there is only one firm. Okay, and I said previously that typically in real life there is not like a single firm, right? Typically there could be duopoly, triopoly, two or three big firms. So in between these extremes there is something called imperfect competition, and that's where we have the oligopoly, right? When only a few sellers offer similar or identical products. Okay, in this type of situation there are only few sellers. And monopolistic competition is when many firms sell similar but not identical products. Okay, so let's look at some of the characteristics of the and examples of monopolistic competition. Characteristics: there are many sellers. They don't sell same product, so there's like product differentiation, right? And there's free entry and exit from the market. Okay, examples like apartments, books, bottled water, clothing, fast food, and nightclubs. So all of these examples, they have many sellers, right? Not only that there's only one seller for the apartment, like many people are or many sellers are there. There's product differentiation, so you can have different types of apartments. Okay, and there's free entry and exit from the market. So comparing perfect competition and monopolistic competition. Okay, it's a tabular form. So in a perfectly competitive market, there are many sellers as expected. Monopolistic also many. Although in monopoly there is only one firm, right? But monopolistic competition there will be many. Free and entry and exit in the market, yes for perfect competition, yes for monopolistic competition as well. Long run economic profits, 0 and 0. So long run there is no profit in both these type of things. Product farm sell for perfectly competitive there is identical product, but for a monopolistic it's differentiated, so it's slightly different, it's not exactly the same. Okay, so farm has market power. For perfect competition we know that not all the farms are small, they are competing, so they don't have market power, none, and they are price taker. But in monopolistic competition they have market power. Yes, these farms, although in many ways they are similar to perfectly competitive farms, but they actually have market power in the market. Okay, you can even think like how Amazon, Walmart, like these are big farms, right? So they also have like similar product, not too much similar. Some have like some uniqueness in some of their products. Okay, maybe Costco has something slightly different than what Walmart has, so slightly differentiated. Demand curve facing farm. For a perfectly competitive market it's a horizontal. Okay, because a price taker, if we draw the demand curve, it's like a horizontal, like you take whatever price is given. and for monopolistic competition, it's a downward sloping demand curve. Okay, so that's the distinguish between perfectly competitive and monopolistic. Now let's look at the distinguishment between monopoly and monopolistic competition. So number of sellers, see, monopoly has only one, they have many. Free entry and exit. In monopoly, no free entry or free exit, but monopolistic competition, yes. Long run economic profit for monopoly is positive, but for monopolistic competition, it's zero. Okay. Farm has market power, yes, both have market power. Demand curve for both of them, it's downward sloping. And close substitutes for a for a monopoly, there are no substitutes, but a monopolistic competition, there are substitutes, right? You can either get like what's the Walmart brand, great value, right? You can get like a great value honey, right? Or what's the brand for Costco? It's Kirkland, so you can get a Kirkland honey brand, right? But they are close substitutes, but not exactly the same, right? So maybe the Kirkland one would be a little bit sweeter, maybe. Okay, so maybe or the other one is like a lighter. Some people like lighter honey, or some people actually like sweeter honey. So there's like, it's a almost similar goods, okay, but some differentiation in their products. So let's look at the monopolistic competitive firm earning profits in the short run. So they actually have demand curve which is downward sloping, okay, and we know that at each quantity the marginal revenue is of less than the price, okay, and this is the marginal cost curve and the average total cost, right? So to maximize profit, the farm produces quantity Q where MR equals to MC. So the same principle applies even for a monopolistic competitive farm. MR equals to MC. The farm uses the demand curve to set the price. So just like but they use the curve of the demand curve to set their price. Okay, just like in a monopoly, they were using the demand curve to set the price, right? Although this is not an like in a perfectly competitive market, okay, the ideal point would have been this point, right, if you look carefully, but no, in a monopolistic competitive firm still produces lower quantity, sort of, right? And they set the price using the demand curve, okay, so it's consistent, so price is P. So that's how much is the profit. So at this point we know that the average total cost is this, so the price that they get minus the average total cost times the quantity they produce. So this whole rectangle would be the profit, right? So this is when earning profit in the short run. So now let's look at a thing when the actually farm loses in the short run. Here, if you see, here actually the farm loses in the short run because here the average total cost curve is higher, right? It's higher than their price that they're getting. So their MR equals to MC is this point. They set the price at this P, but then the cost is actually higher now because the average total cost curve in this example is higher. Okay, so they actually lose this much times how many quantity they produce. So the best this farm can do is to minimize its losses. Okay, so short run, under monopolistic competition, farm behavior is very similar to monopoly. Long run, in monopolistic competition, entry and exit drive economic profit to zero, because in monopolistic competition a lot of farms enter, right? So when more and more farms enter, they actually reduce the profit until and unless it becomes zero, right? So if profits in the short run, new farms would enter the market, taking some demand away from existing farm, prices and profits fall. So if we allow more and more farms to compete, eventually the profit becomes zero. And if losses in the short run, some firms exit the market, remaining firms enjoy higher demand and prices. So if you make profit in the short run, yeah, maybe you're making profit, but as more and more firms enter, then it market becomes saturated, and so until and unless the profit becomes zero. So in some sense, monopolistic competition in the long run, okay, the profit is going to be zero. So let's look at this. Entry and exit occurs when price equals to ATC. So this is the like they set the price and the cost also becomes the same. So notice that a firm charges a markup price over the marginal cost, right, and does not produce at minimum ATC. So why monopolistic competition? So why do you think that the monopolistic competition is less efficient than the perfectly competitive market? That's because of excess capacity. The monopolistic competitor operates on the downward sloping curve of the ATC curve, producing less than the cost minimizing output. Under perfect competition, firm produce the quantity that minimizes the average total cost. So let's look at the graph before. So this is a monopolistic, right? So here, if you see, they are not minimizing the cost, right? Like if you look at this, that the markup of price over marginal cost and does not produce at minimum ATC. Where is the minimum ATC? Minimum ATC is at this point. So they are actually producing at a higher cost curve, right? They don't. It's not efficient, but in a perfectly competitive firm, they would actually produce at the cost minimizing output. But monopolistic competitive firm does not, right? So perfect competition produce where ATC is minimized. So that's the key distinction. So markup over marginal cost, and also there is a markup. So the price is actually greater than the marginal cost because that is what gives them profit in the short run, right? In short run, SR, that's how they get the profit. They get a higher price than the cost. But for a competitive firm, price equals to MC, right? Because they don't make profit. They just give you the product at a same price, like whatever it's cost them to produce. So perfectly competitive firms are actually good in some sense, right? They're not making that much profit. Whatever is the cost, that is what they are giving it to us. So let's look at some welfare. Monopolistic competitive market do not have all desirable welfare properties of perfectly competitive market. We know that because here they don't care about the welfare, so it's greater than price is greater than the marginal cost. Market quantity is also less than the socially efficient quantity because they produce less, right? If you look at their graph, okay, I'm just going back. See, for a perfectly competitive firm, marginal cost curve would have been here, right? Somewhere around here, because that's the minimum of the ATC curve, right? But in a monopolistic, they produce MC equals to MR, which is this point. So this quantity would have been like Q star would be the optimal, and the price would have been P star, right? For a competitive firm, but a monopolistic firm produce at P and Q. Okay, so Q is lower, price also is higher. Okay, they don't care about the welfare so much, right? Yet not easy for policymakers to fix the problem. Firms earn zero profit, so cannot require them to reduce price, because in the long run the firms are earning less profits, because as more and more firms enter, then the profit becomes zero, right? So number of firms in the market may not be optimal due to external effects from entry of new firms and product variety externalities. Surplus consumers get from the introduction of new products. Okay. There is also business stealing externality, losses incurred by existing firms when new firms enter the market. So what Amazon did, Amazon is a giant, right? If many firms enter the market, because Amazon have the market power. So especially this happened in India. They they actually drive out the small farms because they can do that, because um, the small farms can. The Amazon was intentionally taking losses in the first 2 or 3 quarters. uh, so if they are taking the losses, like, they can reduce their price, right? Economies of scale. The small farms were not getting successful, so they had to close their businesses. So this is like business stealing. So what is the objective? That, okay, in the short term it's okay if we don't make profit, but we know that once the farm leaves, then we can raise the price and get more profit, right? This is actually a fact. Okay, I'm not making this up. So inefficiencies of monopolistic competition are subtle and hard to measure. No easy way for policymakers to improve the market outcome. Okay. So some active learning. So far, we learned perfect competition, which was chapter 14. We learned monopoly, which is chapter 15, and monopolistic competition is our current chapter. In each of these, would you expect to see firms spending money to advertise their products? Why or why not? Okay, is advertisement or advertising is good or bad from society's viewpoint? Try to think of at least one pro and one con, right? So in monopolistic competitive industries, product differentiation and market pricing lead naturally to the use of advertising. So because they have a different product, right, they have to sell to the public. So maybe what like Costco, like I usually give the example of Costco can actually, they can sell their Costco actually have very good batteries, right? So they sell batteries. Also, like, they are, in fact, some people said that they are as good as the Duracell batteries. So their batteries are like priced cheaper than Duracell, and they last as long as like Duracell. So why should people buy the Duracell batteries or something like that, right? So they can say that, yeah, our battery is efficient, it lasts longer, and prices are lower. They can do some form of advertisement in that sense. In general, more differentiated the products, the more advertising firms buy. uh, like the Kirkland, peanuts, right? If you go to the supermarket, the Kirkland, the Costco brand, they have peanuts. Okay, those are like really, they have like different flavors, like honey flavored peanuts. So there's more differentiation. Maybe you don't get, maybe, yeah, they still have honey. They can get different varieties of the product. Okay, that's how they produce. Or like some chips that they sell, it's like Himalayan salt chips, right? Kirkland Himalayan salt. Maybe the other chips don't use Himalayan salt, right? So they can advertise that in their website, or even in television. So more advertisement. But economists disagree about the social value of advertising. So the critics of advertising, okay, believe that society is wasting the resources it devotes to advertising. Farms advertise to manipulate people's taste, right? Maybe you really don't need the Himalayan flavored chips, but because they are putting the perception in your mind that, oh, Himalayan salt is actually better for you. You know, now you want to buy the Himalayan flavored chips. Advertising impedes competition. It creates the perception that products are more differentiated than they really are, allowing higher markups. So because it reduces competition, they say, yeah, our this is premium, like premium toilet paper, okay, Kirkland brand. It's very premium quality. So and it drives up the price as well, right? Because you think, oh, it's premium, it's a very good quality toilet paper, so we should buy it. So but what it does is it reduces the competition, because people's brain has been wired in such a way that now you guys would think, yeah, I should buy the premium quality toilet paper. Okay, they actually do that to your brain. That is actually the critic of advertising. But there are some defenders of advertising. So what they believe is that it provides useful information to buyers. Maybe, yeah, it does sometimes. Informed buyers can more easily find and exploit price differences. Advertising promotes competition and reducing market power because they are giving you some information that if you buy this has extra features in it, right? So results of a prominent study: eyeglasses were more expensive in states that prohibited advertising by eyeglass makers than in states that did not restrict such advertising. So there is a study that where advertisement was prohibited in some states, but actually the funny thing is that in those states the eyeglasses were more expensive. But in states where they allowed advertising, the eyeglasses prices actually reduced. So advertisement is also a signal of a quality. If you see that a firm's willingness to spend huge amounts of advertising may signal the quality of its product to the consumer, regardless of the content of the ads. Ad may convince buyers to try a product once, but the product must be of high quality for people to become repeat buyers. So if you guys go to Costco, sometimes you see that they give you free samples, right? Why do you think they are doing that? These are actually kind of advertisement if you think about it, right? They are letting you try the product, right? Because they are confident that their product is really good. Like maybe, yeah, you didn't you wanted to try some like a chicken wings, right? And maybe Costco gave you like some samples or like some cheese, for example. These are actually advertisement. Why are they doing that? Because they are trying to promote that actually these are high quality. Try it for free. If you like it, you will buy it more. Okay. So most expensive ads are not worthwhile unless they lead to repeat buyers. When consumers see expensive ads, they think the product must be good if the company is willing to spend so much on advertising, right? So brand names: in many markets, brand name products coexist with generic ones. Firms with brand names usually spend more on advertising, okay, charge higher prices for the products. And as with advertising, there is disagreement about the economics of brand names. So critics of brand names believe that brand names causes consumers to perceive differences that do not really exist. Okay, like brand names like Nike, okay, or Adidas, right? They cause consumers to perceive that the differences that do not really exist. So the critics say that actually a shoe is a shoe, a running shoe, whatever brand it is, it's almost like 90 to 80% of, like maybe it's like a 5 or 10% difference, but because of the brand consciousness, consumers actually are willing to pay more than 10%. Maybe they pay double if it's a Nike product or an Adidas product. So that's what critics are saying, right? Consumers' willingness to pay more for brand names is irrational, fostered by advertising. That's what critics of brand names think. Eliminating government protection of trademarks would reduce influence of brand names, result in lower prices. Okay, so the like you see that actually government actually protects these trademarks. That yeah, these are trademarks. But if government eliminates that, the production of trademarks, that would reduce the influence of brand names. Like you would buy any other shoe, okay, not necessarily Nike and Adidas. Okay, that's the critics. Now the defenders of brand names. They believe that brand names provide information about quality to consumers because think about it, like if a brand is producing the good quality, most likely they will maintain the quality, right, to protect the reputation of their brands. So you feel more safe to buy brand name products. So that's what this topic is about. Very short chapter. So differentiated, let's look at the conclusion. Differentiated products are everywhere. Examples of monopolistic competition abound. The theory of monopolistic competition describes many markets in the economy, yet offers little guidance to policymakers looking to improve their markets' allocation of resources. Because in the long run, there is no economic profit. So then the government would think that actually these monopolistic competition firms are not making profit. So I mean, what policies can we make? I mean, if we make policies, maybe the farms will lose money and then they won't even eventually exist in the market. If they don't exist in the market, at least I mean, then consumers are not getting like quality products or differentiated products, because maybe some consumers want differentiated products, right? They don't want the same exact product. They want something premium, something good. And here they are actually not earning that much profit in the long run. So a monopolistic competitive market has many firms, differentiated products, and free entry. So many firms can compete in this market. So each firm is in a competitive monopolistic competitive market has excess capacity. It produces less than the quantity that minimizes the average total cost. Like we have seen that the average total cost, they don't produce at the minimum point. Maybe they produce somewhere around here, right? If you have seen the marginal cost curve and ATC curve, something like this, right? So marginal cost curve, and then from the demand curve, actually they get the and they set the price or something like that, right? Monos competition does not have all the desirable welfare properties of perfect competition. There is deadweight loss caused by the markup of price over marginal cost, because their price is higher than the marginal cost. Also, the number of firms can be too large or too small. There is no clear way for policymakers to improve the market outcome. And product differentiation and markup pricing leads to advertising and brand names, right? So they are both the critics of advertisement and also defenders of advertisement, right? So that's it. So this is a very short chapter, and I hope wish you guys all the best. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me. Okay, thank you class, and I hope you guys know that the final exam is scheduled on April 25th from 9 a.m. It will start and it will end on April 27th 11:59 p.m. Okay, thank you. So I would end.